Well, welcome everybody to this new live transmission of Transmedia HistoryTelling. For those who are watching us for the first time, my name is Carla Escobar, and I led the Transmedia HistoryTelling project at the Max Planck Institute for Legal History and Legal Theory here in Frankfurt. In this virtual space, we usually talk to historians and other social scientists that are currently exploring new historical narratives through different media. So if you don't know the project, I highly encourage you to check our social networks and the Institute's webpage. Today's transmission is very special. This is a shared event with the project I care so much, the Explorers, which is a project from the International Federation for Public History. So before presenting our interviewees today, let me introduce you to our co-host, Jimena Perry. Jimena is an associate professor at Iona University and the leader of the Explorers project that month after month presents different public history projects from around the world via Zoom. So Jimena, welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Carla, for your kind introduction. Transmedia HistoryTelling is also a project that I enjoy and care about so very much. So it's an honor to share this space with you and with your project. For those of you who don't know about the Explorers, we are a project of the International Federation for Public History that has been going on since 2018. We do monthly events. We invite academics, researchers, artists, and activists related to public history to talk about the projects. We are just a space used for promotion and bridging and like creating contacts and networks for the International Federation, about public history. You can see all our videos in our Vimeo channel, and also you can follow us in Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Today, we're very happy to present the first and only Venezuelan Digital History Network Foundation, Venezuela History Network, which seeks the development of digital humanities through the retrieval, digitization, and free access of files, collection, and references of Venezuelan and Latin American historical memory. We will ask the founders of the network about that in a moment, but first let me introduce them. We have Guillermo Guzmán Mirabal, a lawyer and PhD in history from the Universidad Católica Andrés Bello in Caracas. He currently serves as an associate professor at that same institution. He also holds an MBA from Boston University. We also have with us Marcus Golding, who holds a BA in liberal arts from the Universidad Metropolitana in Caracas. In 2016, he graduated from Georgetown University with an MA in Latin American Studies. He's currently a PhD candidate in Latin American history at the University of Texas of Austin, my alma mater. And then last but not least, we have Guillermo Ramos Flamerich, who holds a BA in journalism from the Universidad Católica Andrés Bello in Caracas and an MA in Latin American Studies at the University of Sorbonne Nouvelle. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. He's currently a PhD candidate in history at the Creda Sorbonne Nouvelle. Welcome and thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you all for the opportunity. We are very honored to be with you all today, and let's start the discussion.
Okay, so let's start with the questions, and thank you really all for joining this conversation today. So why don't we start by telling the audience about what's the history of this network, the Red Historia Venezuela creation process and its goals?
Of course, Carla. So yeah, basically the history of our organization starts in 2021 when our organization was created in February of 2021. But the discussions about the organization predated that moment through discussions and talks that the three of us had regarding the current state of Venezuelan archives, public and private ones, and the dire situation that they were facing. And it's worth mentioning that each of the three of us were already, before creating the organization, trying to do things to rescue our archives in Venezuela. Guillermo Guzmán and I had tried before to raise some funding for digitization projects before, and Guillermo Ramos was already active at the Fundación Rafael Caldera, who was a former president of Venezuela, and it's a foundation that preserves the personal papers of Rafael Caldera. So we were already doing things, but we decided to come together and take action. So, and it's hilarious to a certain point because we thought about starting small. We were trying to digitize like small archives, family archives, mostly. So that was what was going to be our first project. But then, back in the fall of 2020, our good friends at the National Academy of History of Venezuela, they contacted us because they were facing their own emergency. One of the ceilings of the archives in their institution was about to collapse due to the heavy rainfall of that at that moment, and one of the archives was at risk, of getting wet. So they started relocating this archive to a new room, and they contacted us because they wanted help to see if we could help them restore like the physical archive, the physical infrastructure where the archive was located, but also how we could help them to digitize these records. And it turned out that these records were the civil slave section that we ended up digitizing last year. And that's how we started. Some people could see this like a tragedy to a certain extent, but for us was a great opportunity because we were able to start with a really big project with our friends at the National Academy of History, which, by the way, they are our main partner in all our ventures right now, and they have been fantastic, very supportive. So we had developed a very good chemistry with them, and so that's how we started. That's how our organization started. So going back, to the mission of our organization, our goal is to preserve and digitize at-risk historical archives, whether they are public or private. And our vision is to become the main center for historical research and digital humanities in the country, and also to coordinate and lead cultural heritage preservation efforts through the network of allies that we have within and outside the country. Our team is made of people from the community, researchers, professors, archivists, and programmers. And lastly, our values are transparency, open access to information, and critical thinking. I believe that archives not only preserve knowledge, but are an active exercise of information transparency. So yeah, that's what I can tell you about our organization.
Okay, thank you very much, Marcus. Continuing through that line, we would like to know, well, me, Carla, and me, and also the audience, we would like to know more about the projects you have developed until now. Can our audience check the advances in your web page?
Yes, we can present our platform. I think if I put here to share screen. Okay,
Great.
that's the presentation. In this presentation, we can find how was the state of the repository of the collection of our first project. Our first project is Rescuing the Colonial Archive, the history of Afro-Venezuelan slave. We have this main partnership with the National Academy of History, but also with the German foundation, the Herder Henkel. And with that, we started to save these archives that were in danger because of the situation of the library, of the repository where they were. And we rescue, imagine, 424 volumes of this judicial section, and like 123,000 pages and more than 60,000 captures. So this was the state of the repository. Imagine the destruction of this place. And then, along with the digitization of these archives, we also made the rehabilitation of the archives and in the National Academy of History. Now, I want to present our platform that we built it along with our technological team for the you can freely in open access access to this archive of Afro-Venezuelan slave. So, okay, let me show. Can you see it?
Guillermo,
Yes.
yeah, can you go one slide back, please, just to show them a little bit about the pictures. Yes, you can see there, for example, all the debris and the pieces of ceiling that were falling in top of the archive shelf. So that's what I meant by the rainfall. It eventually created leaks that started to generate pressure on the ceiling, right? So you started seeing debris falling out. So the people at the National Academy of History had to relocate the collection to a new room while reparations were underway. And then in the next slide, if you can move to the next slide.
Yes.
The rehabilitation process started. We helped in one portion, but the National Academy of History also raised their own funding to address the main infrastructural issues. So it was a joint effort, and that was the situation that we faced. And in the other picture, you can see our team basically going through the metadata and the paleographers taking notes from all of the colonial volumes that were relocated.
So now I'm going to show the platform. I don't know what I have to. You can see it now, the platform of the collection.
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is in Spanish, but we have our webpage in Spanish and in English. But the collection you can see in Spanish, and we make here the resume of these volumes, and also how we created or we took the metadata from this word of the index of the slaves and slavery of the published by the National Academy of History in 1997. This preliminary word, was made by Carmen Torres Pantin and Marianela Ponce. And with that premise, we added other metadata to have a collection that, well, all the experts, the researchers, but also everyone who wants to see this collection could have like the index of the volumes. Okay, so here we have all the volumes. The oldest one is from 1700 until 1854, the year of the abolition of slavery in Venezuela. Imagine all this was made during like 6 to 8 months by a team that joined us in this effort to create this first project. So now, well, here's the last, the boxes that are different from different years, and we can share one of these volumes, the volume of 1730. Here you have the description, a number of pages, and you can open it. And if you know this kind of letters, you can read it. We have also the conservation center help us to the good practices of digitization. So you can see here in the high resolution images. But also, if you want more resolution, you can download it and you can have it in your computer, in your cloud, and with you. So this is a platform. Also, you can search here if you look like Caracas, which volumes contains the keyword Caracas.
This is very fancy.
Yeah, useful.
Yeah, in many ways, it took a lot of time to because our search engine has several keywords that you can input there to make your search easier. since these documents don't have like OCR technology. You cannot search it like a PDF, like a typed PDF. Though eventually one of the goals is to transition to that kind of technology. There are technologies like a software called Transcribus that now recognizes like handwritten material. So the idea is to process these documents through that through that software, so we can have more precise searches. But for the moment, you have the basic metadata and keywords that can help you pin down the kind of documents that you are looking at. And yeah, it was a joint effort with our team of paleographers and our team of metadata creators. So yeah.
And these documents are mainly in Spanish, right? Is there the possibility to also for non-Spanish speakers to consult them in English, or there's a project to translate them or something?
No, at the moment we don't have projects to translate them. That's something that we could do in the future if there is a demand for that. Because at the end we understand that probably if you are researching this period of the colonial era, you have to read Spanish. So it's but if there's a demand for some projects, for some volumes to be translated, for sure we can. That would be a good idea.
Thank you.
Yes.
So this is a really big, large documentary based on the website. I remember I saw another digitization project, not only the slavery, when I was checking the web page.
Yeah, the other one is still in progress. We still don't have samples to show. The other project is focused on the personal papers of a former foreign relations minister of Venezuela of the 20th century, called Ignacio Ribarren Borges, and that one we are still working on it. So wait for that. Wait for it in the coming weeks and months. But yeah, that's the other project that we have, and that shows that we are working through different eras and topics. We are not just focusing on a single era or topic. So, and that's one of our aspirations.
Yeah, because that is related with the next questions, and that is what the historians and non-historians can find in this kind of documentation. Not only in those that you can you have already shared, but in the other sources that you are planning to digitize. What kind of documentation is just legal documents or legal process? I really would like to know more about the nature of this documentation. What can these archives offer to researchers?
Definitely. So that's a great question, Carla. I'm gonna first focus on this the civil slaves collection, but I'm gonna then broaden up to address many aspects of your questions regarding other sources. So in the case of the civil slaves collection, even though it is an institutional archive, the documents that you can find there traces the voices of enslaved people through the judicial cases that they put forward to demand their freedom. In that sense, it's an original repository of documentation that has been previously unknown for most researchers. So in essence, it's judicial records and cases presented by slave owners or enslaved people before judicial authorities in the province of Caracas from the 17th century to the 19th century. And the kind of topics that people can search in this collection are primarily issues of property, but also freedom. And by freedom, I mean the tactics employed by the enslaved peoples to access freedom during the colonial and republican eras. There are also extraordinary cases or counterintuitive cases of freedmen rejecting their own freedom, but those are rare. But those are like interesting things that people can find. There are other secondary topics that people can find in this archive: issues of selling and purchase of enslaved people, inheritances, issues of faith, among others. The fact is that at least 1/3 of the documents are about cases initiated by enslaved peoples against their masters, and from that number, approximately half favor the plaintiff. And And the main legal argument that these enslaved people sought to achieve their freedom were marriage and abuse. Married to someone that was already free, or denouncing the abuse that was perpetrated against them by their masters. In any case, we have an excellent team of paleographers that work in this project. Perhaps for a future edition of your channel, we could host them to talk more in detail about these archives that have fantastic stories about, that provide you a glimpse into the socioeconomic and political landscape of that Venezuela. But for those that are listening and want to know more, in this archive, we have also attached an introductory study prepared by two scholars from the National Academy of History that provides, an introduction to the content and the academic value of this archive. And it's called the Índice sobre Esclavos y Esclavitud, Sección Civiles Esclavos, de Carmen Torres Pantin y María Elena Ponce, that Guillermo Ramos just referenced ago. But then, going to what you mentioned, right? Because this archive, even though it's a state archive, you can already see the tensions within this archive, because even though these documents were produced by colonial bureaucrats, it's showing the voices of those that were, marginalized, or that were minorities. So there are tensions here that people can look at. But outside the case of these archives in particular, we are also currently working with, different kind of organizations. We have had like preliminary talks with civil society organizations that focus on the LGBT community, civil society organizations that have archives about fighting for the rights of people that, got AIDS, for example, in the 1980s and 1990s, and how they faced like the stigmatization of the state for the disease that they had, and how they fought in courts for their rights and to avoid discrimination. So that's a case of like a grassroots archive that we are in talks right now to incorporate to our platform. But at the same time, we are talking with families that have family archives of prominent Venezuelan politicians of the 20th century. So that's another angle that we add to this. So there's a constellation of different kind of sources and archives that we would like to add, and I believe we will have a little bit more of time to discuss this in the next question. But that's I hope this answers many of your questions.
Yes, Marcus, actually related to what you were talking about, I would like to ask you a question related to historical memory.
Mm-hmm.
In your network, you use the word in the name, and we are curious to know, well, me, Carla, and the audience, in the ways in which you are using and applying the term. I want to ask you if you are inspired or following historical memory approaches from other countries in Latin America, like Colombia, Argentina, Chile, Brazil, or Mexico, just to name a few. What's exactly the historical memory you want to preserve and develop for Venezuela? And also, can you give like another few examples?
Okay, yeah, I think Ramos, you can step in here, but I'm happy to also add to Jimena's question as well.
Well, yes, we think us as a network that connects with all kind of organization and people that is working for the memory, for the historical memory. We also know the background of Venezuela's efforts during the end of the 19th century, beginning and during all the 20th century, to preserve the archives. Like we have like Virginia Betancourt with the National Library of Venezuela, or Pedro Graces, Ramon J. Velázquez, that created or they were capable of rescuing the Venezuelan archives and papers of the history of the country, and with that is the background that inspires us. Also, the other organizations that exist in Latin America, Europe, and also in the USA. But also we want to connect, to make this network with all the initiatives, that exists now in Venezuela, because there are many initiatives that from people from different regions, not only from the capital Caracas, but also in the Andes. But you have the people, the professors from the University of Los Andes working to rescue the archives there. Also, you have in the Margarita Island in the Caribbean, the Gente de Mar, that is working for also to the heritage of the Waikari tribes. Also, we work with the Afro network in Venezuela, that is a Latin American network, and with the chapter of Venezuela. We work with them, and we presented a forum in the Universidad Católica Andrés Bello with the Red Afro, and we also want to connect all kind of initiatives that are for the preservation, for this heritage, and in different areas. We want, as Marcus said, we want social history, we want the history, the culture, also music, artistic expressions, political history. That the three of us, Guillermo Guzmán, Marcus, we work about the 20th century. But we also are open to the other centuries as we started our first project. So that's the focus of the Red Historia Venezuela, of our network, is to connect and to be an initiative that can preserve the Venezuela's memory in this digital era. So, Marcus, if you want to add something.
Yeah, and just to go to one of the questions that Jimena asked, what is the exact historical memory we want to preserve? And I think at the end, the way we see the situation in Venezuela is that we see Venezuela as an emergency situation. What I mean by that is that everything, every cultural heritage, every historical memory is at risk, because no one is, besides the group that we have mentioned and our organization itself, there's no one else doing anything for preserving this historical memory. That's why we have such a broad net, if you want, because at this point we are trying to do as much as we can to preserve any kind of histories that we are able to address. So in general, we want to preserve the historical memory of Venezuela from its foundation to our current day.
Thank you, Marcos and Guillermo Ramos.
That sounds fascinating, and I can imagine that this big project has have to overcome a lot of challenges. I really would like to know more about those challenges and how you have been able to face all of them.
Yes, Guillermo. Yeah.
Well, first of all, we started in 2021, and that was the second year of the pandemic of COVID. Imagine all these closed archives, libraries. Imagine for the researchers, for professors, how to make research without all this closed. Also, Venezuela is facing this situation that, well, has appeared in the world news of political and economical situation. But abroad of that, the damage of that exists now in the patrimony in the archives is, and the risk that many of these papers are going to be lost in a couple of years. That was well, as Marcus said, something really bad, because it's being destroyed, the many of the historical memory, but also the beginning of a challenge. The beginning of a challenge to make something, to take action. As individuals, we were taking actions, preserving with our cell phones, preserving with our scanners, preserving, transcribing, or making articles on Wikipedia, or publishing books about topics that need to be known, as these publications by Guillermo Guzmán about the 1960s foreign policy of Venezuela, with the Essequibo affair, or Marcus working with all these magazines of the petroleum companies. So we had this idea, and we knew and we know the challenge of this is such a big challenge to do. And when we started, we received and every day we receive a lot of people that says, well, we're going out from Venezuela, and we have all these papers of my grandfather, of my grandmother, that we don't know what to do with that. So you want to digitalize it, or it's going to be loose? So many people present us that says, well, we have like these cassettes of, I don't know, of this, it could be historical. So we think that yes, the history and the construction of this, the history of the 20th century, but also in other periods, you can find it in many Venezuelan homes that now are facing all the challenges of the crisis. So that's why we have one of the inspiration and one of the deals to work for it is how the fragility of our historical memory, and there is no action, nor there are no big action or state actions to preserve it.
Yeah, and just to add to what Guillermo Ramos said, one of the big challenges is the lack of staff in many of these archives, lack of resources, old and decaying infrastructure, and the absence of any official policies in relation to cultural heritage preservation. So we're all operating in a vacuum in many ways. So it is the responsibility of the communities, the civil society, to devise solutions to take action and preserve these documentation before they are gone. For example, there have been cases of library fires similar to the one that took place like 3 years in Brazil, I remember, but in one of the universities of the country in the east that completely burned, or a portion of it burned. So we have to work also as quick as we can to avoid that fate from repeating itself.
Well, and greetings, and I want to add one of the challenges are, for example, I'm here in Caracas with a poor Wi-Fi connection, and we have in a third world country with sometimes no light and no electricity, and problems with security, with equipment at the place that we are digitalizing. So, those are big challenges that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
I was wondering, how big is the team? Because it looks like it's involving a lot of different kind of professionals, like engineers and students that are transcribing and making the catalogs.
Yeah, our team right now is not that big. It's a group of students, approximately 3 to 4 undergrad students that have been helping us transcribing, creating metadata. A group of paleographers from the National Academy of History, around 2 or 3 paleographers that are really excellent professionals. Then our team of programmers that are 3 excellent programmers that have been thanks to them we have all these platforms up and running. And besides that, the 3 of us, and also a couple of scholars, professors from the National Academy of History and the Universidad Católica Andrés Bello that are also involved. But we are always we're looking to expand and incorporate more people, and so that's our hope for the future.
Yes, in our webpage, that I can show you the yes, let me show you. Here we have we have in English about us, founders, and the staff of this first project. Jesus Luces, Gloria Márquez, Diego Madrid, Sully Chacon, Andrés Eloy Burgos, that he won the National Prize of History, Rafael Maria Baral, this year, and Cristo Ramirez. And well, we have our technological team, as Marcus says, with that are 3 of them. And now I show you the platform, but here you have the website that you can find what we want to do, the retrieval, digitization, and open access to access to our online collection. Also, we presented about why we are working for the Venezuelan historical memory, what we were talking before, our main goals, and what inspires us of the history of Venezuela, of people that have preserved the history of Venezuela. Also, here we can find our partners, first partners, Herda Henkel, the National Academy of History, Creative Commons, the Venezuela Catholic University, and now we have to add also the Explorer, the Max Planck Institute, to decide. And here we can find this part for the donations. So
yeah, because I was thinking when I was thinking, I asked about the challenges. I was thinking, well, the big challenge. Where's the money?
Yes, that's the big.
How
Yes.
it works.
Yeah, that's a huge challenge, and right now we are working with partners, with donors to raise that money, whether they are institutions or individual donors. But we also have to diversify our portfolio of resources, and so we're trying to develop, a donation program that can help toward that end. And exploring other alternatives to generate revenue, to at least be being able to cover the cost to maintain the website and the collections. So yeah, those are one of the big challenges that we are facing right now, but we're working on that.
Okay, thank you. I was going to ask you the same question about the money, but Carla did. I was also thinking perhaps
We're so curious.
yeah, I mean it's important. And also
Yeah.
perhaps Marcus and both Guillermos, the team is not as big as you wish, but it's big. I mean, there's a lot of people involved. It's not like an individual initiative. So I think
Yeah.
it's great. And the other thing I think is great is how you're involving the community. What Guillermo Ramos was mentioning about people giving you things that they have. I think that's a good way to start, like diversifying and stuff. But
Definitely.
no, yeah. But my question is a little bit more about memory.
Mm-hmm.
In Latin America, as you are very well aware, there's an ongoing tension between grassroots memories and state memories. You already mentioned that, but I would like you to elaborate a little bit more there. You already know that there's like a clash. There's always a clash there.
Yeah.
We would like to know how you address that issue in the network. Are you
Okay.
working or planning to work with official or governmental institutions to come to a middle ground related to the construction of historical memories? Or do you only you only deal with unrepresented voices? In other Latin American countries, as you know, historical memories are now being included as part of state or official agendas, but that's always a matter of polemics and controversies. Where does the network stand? Where does Venezuela, your network, stand?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Jimena, and elaborating a little bit further from what I mentioned before. So our position right now is one of emergency response, as I mentioned, and that means that no matter if the archives are from the state or from grassroots communities, at this point we consider all historical records relevant. So at this point, our aspiration is to bring these different archives that have their own silences, they have their own views about historical processes to the same platform, to the same organization. We know that there are tensions, there are in many ways conflicts within this narrative, but bringing these archives to the same platform so that they can coexist, and in order to have a comprehensive reassessment of our own history, because I think that's the only way where we can start, reassessing the narratives, the dominant narratives that have dominated our understanding of our history. So at this point, this is like we have a broad approach of bringing different archives and having them in the same platform and organization. And as you stated, I mean, we, as I have mentioned before, we're open to work with anyone that has archives of historical significance. We have already worked with a state archive. The National Academy of History is a public archive, it's a state archive, even though it is an autonomous institution. But we have plans underway, as I mentioned, to work with grassroots communities and families who want the legacy of their relatives preserved for posterity. And as Guillermo was mentioning, we receive every month or so, people writing to us. We have these archives. What can we do with that? And we are small at this point. We cannot answer. We cannot provide like relief to many of these inquiries, to many of these people that are seeking to preserve their own legacies or organizations. But at this point, what I'm trying to convey here is that people are looking at us for for the preservation of their records, no matter if they are from the government or from grassroots communities or private organizations. So I hope that that answers your question, because I think that the particular situation is Venezuela is different from other places in where you have specific groups of the community that are focused on advancing the histories of people of for example minorities that have been ignored by the official media. And then you have the traditional state archives that focus from the top down view of history. And then and as you mentioned right now, government archives and state archives are working to include the vision of these minorities, but in many ways in a sanitized in some cases in a sanitized way, so that the state doesn't look that bad. So there's all these ongoing tensions in other places that in Venezuela simply there's no at this point I believe there's not the same tensions, simply because there's no infrastructure for these other organizations to have archives. So at the end we have to extend our hands and try to bring as many memories and preserve as many memories as we can. And this is not a job only for us, but also for our partners in the country, the people and organizations that Guillermo Ramos mentioned, and the idea is to collaborate together, to make a network to bring these stories to the people, essentially.
And
But
we
oh, sorry, go.
that we preserve the raw material, and then you have that on open access, and then the people that made research, historians or people that are curious, they can make their own interpretations. So that's what we think is that if you have the materials, you can then construct and you can make the interpretations that what you can find on the web. You can find online for free all these documents that reveals you a part of Venezuela, and that's what we want, to reveal all the faces of Venezuela and the construction of Venezuela in the different times, different centuries.
Okay, thank you. But have you noticed or not, perhaps not, like a willingness or not of the government to support this kind of initiatives, like the creation of archives, or not really?
Well, it's difficult, from as I mentioned, from the central government, there are no policies in place for this kind of work. I don't think there is a strong political will or interest to preserve these materials. But that's perhaps at the top levels of government. But at the level of for example, the National Academy of History, which is on government institution, they are very committed to preserve their archives, create collections, make them accessible to the public. The thing is that they don't have the staff, they don't have the resources right now, so that's where we step in to help. And there are other, like, for example, regional governments in the different regions of Venezuela. We have had contact with people from the Zulia province, that is an oil-rich province in Venezuela, that they're very committed to digitize their own records. So we have been in contact with them to help them, to provide them with the technical help that they need to carry out their own projects. So definitely there are interest at the regional level, even at the local level of governments, to do something. So that's where we try to partner and see if we can help those bring to fruition their goals of digitizing their own documents and save them. So yeah, to answer your question simply, I think at the general level, there's not a political will or interest in that, but at the more localized and regional levels, there are government institutions that are interested in doing something for their archives.
Yeah, my next question is some kind related with that, and I would like to, if we can discuss a little bit more about the debates related to digitization, because on one hand, some people say that sometimes these digitizations make that institutions have less care with the physical preservation of documents. And this is also a big risk. Like if it's somebody that is digitizing, maybe the physical documents are going to be lost forever soon. But also on the other hand, from the researcher perspective, like if you are only able to access some kind of documents, of historical documents in digital form, your relationship with the primary source also change, and you are not going to be able to get information, very valuable information regarding the materiality of the source. And I'm thinking the size, the way the source is organized, the material, the fragility of this kind of documents that also gave you information when you are making a historical research. So how the network is dealing with this kind of debates?
Yes, no, that's also a great question, Carla. And as you mentioned, there are inherent risks to a full digital approach to historical records. One of those, as you mentioned, is the issue of authenticity. Digitized records can alter, manipulate the information that is contained in the original copy. Also, you lose key aspects of its materiality, the provenance of the document, the logic that is imposed by these archives to the organization of these documents. Those are things that can be completely missed by a person accessing the document online. There's also barriers to technology. If people don't have a reliable internet access to historical documentation, they might not be able to use it. There are also security vulnerabilities. You can get all these records lost. However, I think that the benefits outweigh the risks, at least in the particular case of Venezuela. First, because it increased accessibility to many of these records that or our collections that are currently not accessible in person, because the archives are closed or there are restrictions placed in accessing the archive. It also helped preserve the original copies by reducing the wear and tear of the original documents, and also the fact that generating digital backups help in cases that catastrophe hits and the original documents disappear. And at the end, I also think that digitization helps to democratize access to information and to the wider dissemination of this information, not only in local communities, but at a national and even regional and global level. So, at this point, our position is one of privileging digital access to historical records while adhering as much as possible to the authenticity of the document. It is a position grounded on the emergency situation that exists in the particular case of Venezuela. However, as a post-custodial archiving organization, we also have to find a balance between the benefits of digital access with the need for long-term preservation and accessibility to original document collections. So in the work that we have done with the National Academy of History, we were not only focused on digitizing the records, but also helping them restore the archive. So, to extend the life cycle of the original documents. That's something that we are aiming to do as much as we can in other projects, even though, right now we have a focus on privileging digital access. But, the ideal working relation would be one in which we can help people access digitally these records, but also provide help and aid to these archives that are in very bad shape. So that would be the. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, but I want to ask you, the three of you, what's the most rewarding part for you of this project, and how has been the reception of your work? I mean, I know it's a lot of work, but have you enjoyed it? What's the most fun for you?
Okay, we'll let my peers step in first.
Oh, Guillermo, that is in Caracas.
Well, to see the collection there at the web, after all the troubles, the work, the inconvenience, the struggle with with all the reality of living here in Caracas, that after 6 8 months of hard work, finally it is on the web, and accomplished the goal that we had at that time, that well, to put it in open access to all researchers, not only outside of Venezuela, but Venezuelan researchers. For example, I don't know, researchers that live, I don't know, 100 kilometers from Caracas, but for them it's very hard to access the where the files are. So to have it there, for them, it is a very good. Uh, it is the finishing the main goal, at
Yeah.
least for us.
Yes, that's when I not now, I'm not in Venezuela. I'm studying abroad in Europe, and when I enter every day at the website of the foundation, when I see these documents, when I see that you can find more information about Venezuela, because one of the things that many years ago that was alarming to me, that was there is still there is not that much information about the country's history. And then you feel that with your work, with your time, now you can find more about the country, and this could be an interest for an historian that is making research about this topic of the slave, and he's working in I don't know, in France, or he's making his studies in the United States, or in Germany, and then many of there are some research about Latin American countries, about Latin American history, that they don't have the material about Venezuela, and then Venezuela not appears on those research, on those books, on documentary. Many times I have found that it's published something about a topic that concerns the Venezuelan history, and the country is not present because there were no access to the archives, or are not the you don't have this amount of information on the internet, or in libraries. So that's one of the main satisfactions, when you can find more about your country online.
Yeah, and in my case, the main satisfaction is to serve the community in general. To have for people to have access to their history, whether they are scholars or not. We have received like messages from people asking us genealogy questions because they went to the Afro-Venezuelan slave collection and they found a slave with their last name, and they were aware that one of their ancestors was a slave. So they start inquiring about their ancestry and their family history. So for me, that's a satisfaction seeing that these repositories serve a wider purpose for other people. And for me, it's a dream to finally being able to see a platform where you can access your history, where you can browse your history. And I also believe that if you want your country to be more research, more debated academically, you also need to facilitate access to these sources, because otherwise, researchers won't take the risks because it's too much work. There are other places that are easier to access, and that also perpetuates like perhaps the same exploring the same topics, the same ideas that other scholars have explored, but you are bringing a new angle, but working always with the same set of sources from a specific location. I think these kind of efforts broaden the scope of the work, I think. So for us, it's for me, it's a very fulfilling project, and I hope that we will be able to expand it beyond and build networks, and eventually have the kind of infrastructure that countries like Colombia, Brazil, Argentina have right now. So that's our goal.
Before continuing with our questions, I want to show you some of the comments. We have a lot of comments.
Oh, that's great.
Here.
Great. Thank you. Yeah.
Excelente programación. Excelente. Congratulations and good vibes.
Yes.
Excelente trabajo. Gracias por trabajar en nuestra memoria.
Thanks.
Also excellent. You are have a really engaged audience that are really valuing your hard work, because it really is excellent. Thank you so much.
We also have social media that we want to present, that we think that because we are posting about the different topics about what we are doing. And let me show you. Let me share the screen, and you can find our Instagram that we started like a year ago. And here, we started this is a guided visit by the Caracas downtown with Guillermo Guzmán and part of our staff. Also, you can see pictures of the process of digitalization and the comments of the people that work of our staff. Also, the agreements with the universities, interviews in the other media. Also, what the members of that they work with the paleography, that they work for the Academy of History, what they think about this project. Oh, here is Marcos presenting one of the events. Also, we have here like the different seals that you can see Venezuela's history through these documents of Afro-Venezuelan slaves, because here you have the seal of Phil V, then you have Charles III and Ferdinand VII, and then you have the state of Venezuela, the Republic of Colombia, and the Republic of Venezuela. So you can find, yes, your history and the history of the country in all these archives, and different events that we have promoted, like this moment with the explorers.
Yes, thank you.
We have one question from Jesús Azuaje. ¿Cómo se puede aportar al proyecto? He said, soy estudiante de historia de la Universidad de los Andes y estaré interesado en aportar lo que se pueda a este proyecto de digitalización de documentos.
Okay, should I answer in English or Spanish for this particular person?
It depends on
No.
Go in
Well,
Spanish. Go in
okay.
Spanish.
Yeah, full
So,
Spanish.
sí, Jesús, bueno, básicamente te diría que te contactes con nosotros por nuestras redes sociales o nuestro correo electrónico, que Guillermo, cuando puedes compartirlo también, para hablar de qué manera podemos colaborar. Para todas las personas que quieren contactarnos, ya sea para ayudarnos como sea posible, contáctenos por nuestras redes para entrar en contacto y, bueno, hacer redes, básicamente.
Sí, aquí se puede colocar el nombre de nuestro correo, no sé, para responder en los comentarios, que sería info@redhistoriabe.org.
Okay.
Y la página web, redhistoriabe.org, y todas las redes sociales, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm doing in Spanish. Es @redhistoriabe.
Okay.
I think we can put the links
Okay.
on the YouTube channel, and then because this interview is going to is
Okay,
recorded and it's
perfect.
going to stay there in the Transmedia History Challenge channels. So yeah, we can.
Yeah, so by your social media, we try to answer immediately. And yes, we need help. We need help because there are many projects that are going to come.
But there are a lot of comments. I'm really happy.
Thank
You're
you. Yeah, we
celebrities
are.
by now.
Yeah, you're rock stars.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I really would like to know what's next. I'm really curious because it's a really great project. You have like a lot of people working with you. What are your plans?
Yeah, in terms of future projects, we have different conversations going on for hopefully for projects that we will be implementing later this year. But just to give you a brief overlook, right? We are thinking about digitizing cultural magazines of the 20th century. The magazine Elite, for example, is one of those. A magazine that started in 1925 and ended in 1998. So that's an important magazine that we want to digitize. Also, the magazine Resumen, which is also a very important political magazine from the 1970s and 1980s. We also have plans underway to digitize press from the 19th century as well. Also, a project about the exiles of the Gomez regime, which was a government that took place at the beginning of the 20th century, from 1908 to 1935. There's ongoing conversations to digitize magazines of the petroleum oil companies. There are conversations ongoing to digitize this grassroots archive of this civil society organization called AXI, or Acción Comunitaria contra el SIDA, which I talk a little bit about that, and also create an LGBTQ archive as well. I mean, those are the ones that I have on the top of my head. There's also an effort to do a presidential collection where we can host the personal papers of different presidents of Venezuela. So yeah, that's, I think, I don't know if my peers, my colleagues can add something else, but that's the catalog of potential projects that we have right now.
Yes, we are anxious to have ready or to be working on our second project to fill that platform with many things and to cover all the different centuries. And yes, we are focusing also on these magazines that the political magazines, the political debates on magazines during the the second half of 20th century in Venezuela was very important, and you have precious information of what was happening and the construction of democracy and the construction of institutions. So, as Marcos said, we also have talked about for different presidential records, personal records of former presidents of Venezuela that helped to build the democratic institutions and that were key figures in the 20th century. And what we are open to discuss different things. We think that the diversity of access of angles can help to make a strong and stronger platform and stronger network.
Yeah, and actually, just to add, there's also a proposal to do like a sort of continuation of the Afro-Venezuelan slave, but by creating an ad hoc archive about the history of cocoa in Venezuela, which was the key commodity of the country, and through cocoa you can understand the socioeconomic and political life of the country in the colonial and the Republican eras. So that's another idea, another project that is on the table. So yeah, I don't know if Guzman have anything else to add in that regard.
No, I think that's it. There is a lot right now, a lot of ideas. We need resources to fulfill all those projects, but there is a lot of material, and we need time and resources.
Yeah, and people that want to help us,
Yes.
to want to join us.
This is fascinating. We have a question in the comments. What does the future of public support for these kinds of projects in Venezuela look like?
Well, in my opinion, is very bleak. I don't see any kind of support from public institution coming our way now, nor in the short or or the midterm. So yeah, at this point we are here on by ourselves, and that's the reason why the support of the community and also private organizations will be key to try to bring many of these projects to fruition. Hopefully, things will change in the future, and finally there's going to be public support for these projects. But at the moment, it's just us and any kind of help that we can find.
Thank you. Well, the last question I had you already answered. It was about how to collaborate or get in touch with you. So you already answered that. So I'm just going to reiterate the importance of people to getting in touch with them, donating if you can, making noise,
Yes.
sharing this video all over social media that we're going to share it to, like try to make this as known as possible. So instead of the question, I'm going to ask you if you want to add something that you haven't mentioned before, if you want to wrap up with something special.
Yeah, well, the only thing that I want to mention is, follow the advice of Jimena, share this video as much as you can, make noise, reach out to us, and yeah, join us in this, quest for rescuing the historical memory of Venezuela. And we look forward to hearing from you. So thank you very much for the event, and to Jimena and Carla for hosting us today.
Yes, let's say in touch. All the people that want to collaborate with us are welcome. And yes, from all around the world, we need support. We are starting. We know the conditions where we are working for, and it is just a big and infinite labor to do. But we think with the help of people, with the help of community, and with the enthusiasm that we have, because of we feel what we are doing, I think that the network is going to be stronger every month, every year. So thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to share this work with you.
Okay, thank you. So also I want to thank Carla and Transmedia HistoryTelling for making this possible and to share the space with explorers. It's always a pleasure to do these events, these shared events. I want to thank Marcus Goldin and Guillermo Ramos and Guillermo Guzmán for accepting the invitation, and thank you for sharing this with us and giving us like part of your time. Just as a last announcement, I want to invite you to a special workshop the network Histories at Risk and Explorers is doing in May 12 and 13. We're going to have presenters from all over the world, including China, Japan, Colombia, India, Europe. So if you have if you're interested, you can get in touch with me. And I also invite you to follow Transmedia HistoryTelling on social media and Explorers on social media. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. This was a great event. I'm very happy to hear that Venezuela has such a rich history and that we're getting to know it. So Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to you all.
Thanks.